I I truly do not know what Brian is doing with Saga right now. I don't know what is going through his thought process. I have no idea if he truly has a script or a through line that is the actual plan of the ongoing narrative. Cause what's been going on with this recent volume, these last couple issues, feels nothing short of pointless. This is exactly like almost what I said with Abortion Town and my why Saga is disappointing video, only it's worse. Like 1,000% worse. 1,000 times worse. In almost every way. Where Abortion Town had a few storylines that happened behind the scenes with other characters, while our main family felt like it was going on a detour. That was essentially just a filler arc, honestly. The only part of Abortion Town, honestly, that with the family that I generally liked was seeing Hazel's brother, quote unquote, which was actually just an elaborate illusion spell that Alana did not know she was casting, which led to a really good heartfelt moment when Hazel's talking with her brother, which I think was nice. Sadly, I didn't get to that because mostly time, and also I didn't want to go on Abortion Town too much because I didn't feel like being too political, honestly. Here I'm gonna once again break that boundary a little, where Abortion Town felt like a storyline, or at least with the family, felt like a storyline that didn't need to be there, while they could have been doing anything else, because before there were time skips. Like, we didn't need to see how Marco and Alana got to a planet and got jobs. We didn't need to see that. It's, hey, small time skip, they're there. Alana's an actress, she's getting some money, pay for food and stuff like that. Marco's watching Hazel, he has bandages on him to keep his identity, he dyed his hair, so he looks different. That makes sense, that's fine. But there wasn't a whole storyline of how they got there. Like, you don't need to have this entire chapter explaining how character got from A to B. You don't need to do that every time unless there's an actual point to it. Abortion Town felt very pointless, save one or two scenes with Hazel and her not brother, her illusion brother, right? But here, everything feels so pointless because it's just, everything's either A, gonna get retconned, or B, gonna be undone or not work up to anywhere. Because I think the only storyline that might actually matter to an extent is Alana's, where she's getting a new job and they're trying to go off worlds, which at the end of the recent issue 65, I think, like, her, Squire, and Hazel actually end up getting off planet. They actually end up getting a room because the tree house is essentially burned down. The tree ship is burned down, and like, they were homeless for a good while. They were living in a tent, which was very sad to see, honestly. But like, other than Alana's storyline, like, almost every other character storyline felt pointless. And I'm not even going to count the agents, the winged agents characters through line, because he barely showed up at all in the series. And seeing him now, like, he should have shown up like at a later time, or at an earlier time. He should have shown up at an earlier time, and what Brian should have done was doing what he did, what he's doing with that character. Like, right now, he should have done that like later. He should have done that earlier. I'm sorry. He should have done that much earlier in the story, because right now it feels pointless. Sure, it's cool seeing old characters who we didn't think was gonna come back. That's neat, but again, it feels pointless. It's just him tracing Alana and Hazel's steps, basically. It's him tracking them down. on behalf of the government, or the winged government. I don't remember the planet names right now. It's on behalf of their government. And the storyline with Gwendolyn, Petrichor, and the Will feel like they're going like nowhere. Gwendolyn's weird thing with Sophie is that she's trying to gain favor from the robot kingdom over to the horned people, which at a point I would have thought was interesting, but Gwendolyn has been so unlikable, I personally didn't care whether her plan worked or not. Which, from the looks of things, it did look like it was going to, but with what happened with these recent issues, I cannot say for certain whether or not it will fall through. And one thing that another thing that I want to point out is another storyline that is just completely stupid and pointless, is them trying to bring Marco back, and it's clearly being nothing more than a massive red herring. Even other people are calling this out and saying they're obviously not going to do that. Brian's not that type of writer. Saga's not that type of story. So why even go there? Why even bother and try to do this and try to say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing with this character. When in actuality, you're not doing that at all. Like, what in the world are you doing? Again, it's pointless. Like, Hazel and Squire's little subplot of them trying to find a way to bring Marco back was very stupid, and them finding out, oh, we couldn't bring Marco, we couldn't bring Dad back at all. Oh no, that's very sad. I think that's completely fucking stupid. Like, that is beyond stupid. It is 100% a waste of time, when Brian could have been doing something really cool. Like, when Saga came back, like, the stuff with Hazel I did like. Like, Alana being a smuggler, albeit her flashing her tits, bitching about the patriarchy, I thought was very fucking dumb. I still think it's fucking dumb. I said it was dumb in my last video. I will say I do think there are some interesting things that happen that did happen in that volume, but are somewhat short-lived. Another thing that I want to point out in regards to Saga is I mentioned this before with Petrichor, if that's how you pronounce her name. I'm sorry, I don't really know. Right now, I don't really care. This is something that I kind of wanted to talk about in my video, but I didn't want to bog it down too much. And that is aspects of Saga that do not hold up under scrutiny, or at least hold up with current events, because, like, this is a fact. The LGBT community and trans community has had a massive history with several issues of sexual misconduct.
Many of you already know this. What you do not know is the experiences of the women on the University of Pennsylvania swim team. My teammates and I were forced to undress in the presence of Leah, a 6'4" tall biological male, fully intact with male genitalia, 18 times per week. Some girls opted to change in bathroom stalls, and others used the family bathroom to avoid this. When we tried to voice our concerns to the athletic department, we were told that Leah's swimming and being in our locker room was a non-negotiable, and we were offered psychological services to attempt to re-educate us to become comfortable with the idea of undressing in front of a male. To sum up the university's response, we, the women, were the problem, not the victims.
And such like that, and seeing it getting downplayed and stuff like that is why many people have lost favor with them, right? And Petrichor's introduction at the time, I may have just seen it as kind of somewhat of a funny scene, but how she's introduced, how you introduced a trans character, how Brian introduced it, had to have been the most unironic, and I mean this unironically, the most problematic and the most unequivocally the worst possible way to introduce a character like that in a narrative, period. Because, and I've said this before, Hazel's looking for Clara, her grandma, and like she's at a prison, right, with Clara because they're separated from Marco and Alana, and she goes to the shower. She's like, hey, where's Clara, where's my grandma? And they point to her in the shower. It's like, okay. She goes, she walks in, and there's Petrichor right there, all showering, cock out. And that is how we're introduced to that character. Hazel, who is, I believe, either 6 or 5 or 7 years old, a little girl walking in on that. Luckily, Clara does like show up and like pulls her to the side, like, and it is stupid how like it's this quirky scene where Hazel talks to Petrichor before Clara shows up, where she says, oh, you have an Audi. It's like you have a dad piece or something like that. And I'm like, at the time I thought that was funny because I thought that was Saga quirky humor. Now I look at that and I think, shit, I think genderqueer. I think of all that shit that was shoved in elementary schools. That's what I think of now. And that, I have no idea if Brian was thinking the same. I have no idea if he regrets that now. I can't tell you. Right? And Petrichor as a character, I will not lie, I do like her as a character. She is bitchy, she is annoying, but there's a reason for that, and I do enjoy that. Her relationship with Prince Fourth, and another thing I didn't cover in my other video, I thought was, I'm gonna be frank, I never bought it. It always felt forced to me. Prince Fourth's, I never felt like he got over the death of his wife that well. I never got the sense that he got over the death of his wife, and seeing him just screwing someone on the side, like granted he like afterwards like he gets damaged in a fight, like this is earlier this is early in the series. He has like a cracked screen and he's at Sextillion and he's having like he's getting gangbanged all the time, right? And then he like finally wakes up and is like, oh shit, like what the hell am I doing here? Like he finally gets out of his little like stupor. Like, but that was mostly like he recognizes what he was doing was really dumb. While his relationship with Petrichor, I do feel like he got over the death of his wife too quickly, and I did not buy his relationship with Petrichor that much. Sure, they talked, sure they kind of bonded. I never really bought the full relationship they had. And this does tie into what happened now. Now, I didn't talk about Prince Robot the Fourth that much because even though he is an important character, he never, like, I can explain Saga well enough without bringing up every single solitary character. Because there's a lot of characters in Saga. There's a lot of characters that play a role in Saga that do play, like, major events. But you don't need to know about Prince Robot the Fourth to exactly explain Marco and Alana's predicament. You don't need to do that because they are essentially the main character. Marco, Alana, Hazel, Clara, Isabel, like those are the main characters. Fourth, I generally like as a character, and his death is another death that I thought was very abrupt as well. In that, like, the will just says pass and he just rips his head off, and then boom, he's dead. Squire's father's dead, and that's about it. And Alana's like left to raise Hazel and Squire as like brother and sister, essentially, as a single mom. Like the series going forward by that point, by issue 54 onward. And recently, this volume, we see bits and pieces of Petrichor talking with Alana and a few other characters, and clearly setting up that she plans on getting revenge on the will. That she's like gathering stuff, she's getting ready, and with this recent issue, 65, like she finally catches up to the will. She has a scuffle, she fights Gwendolyn, she fights him, and a rogue spell hits Sophie, and it's very clear like she's dying. I try not to be the type of person who say that certain storylines in a narrative can be like problematic and stuff like that. Like, I know I just said it unironically, but that's because of a legitimate issue played off a bit of a joke. Like, I wouldn't even say under like a modern lens, I would say even kind of then, which I believe that thing came out like, I think that issue was like around like 2015 or something like that. So it wasn't that big, but there were some cases of stuff like misconduct actually happening then too. I have no idea if Brian really thought this through, where he essentially killed off the sex trafficking victim, the sex trafficking survivor, and having her accidentally be killed by your transgender character, I thought was very, I have no idea, accidentally tasteless is, I don't know if that's the right word or not, because that's what it feels like. Like, again, like, I have no idea if Sophie is actually dead here, but there have been cases where Saga actually has killed off characters and they're like actually dead. Like, there have been cases where Saga has killed off a character and it's been accidental, sometimes played for a laugh, sometimes it's like, oh, you know, shit moment. Gwendolyn did kill off the author of the book that Marco and Alana read, because there actually was a subplot of them going to his house. Right. And here it just feels like tasteless in a way. Like, covered with the fact that this entire volume felt really pointless, and even last volume to an extent, it felt very meandering in a way, where characters that have been killed off over the last couple like issues, like over the myriad of issues like since the beginning, is astonishing. And seeing the characters we have like still with us right now and seeing how unrecognizable they are is also a bit astonishing as well, in almost the worst possible ways. And I still stand by, and I don't know if I'll ever like go into full detail as of why. Like, I bring this up in both videos, but the Will's character feels so mismanaged and so poorly handled. It still boggles my mind seeing him have the exact same personality he had like near the beginning, when in actuality it was clear Brian was setting him up to be something else completely, which really sucks. Especially since Brian isn't that bad of a writer. It's quite clear he's either losing consistency or something. I generally am like, I do not know what Brian is doing with this series, to be honest. I don't know what the plan is. And it's amazing to say this out loud. This is halfway done. This story is halfway done, roughly speaking. Like 102 issues, 105 issues that he planned on doing. Like, that is insane. And the fact that he's doing what he's doing right now, I'm like, there's no way. He's clearly going through burnout. Clearly. Like, at this point, he might as well just hand the series over to another writer. Like, at this point, either end it now or hand it to another writer and do something else. Because Brian really should not be working on this series, like, at all.